So we still are technically playing the major scale, we're just omitting the 4th and the 7th. And what that also does is it gets rid of some of the bends. If we look at the complete G major pentatonic scale, there's actually only one bend in the first whole 3 octaves there. It's the 3-draw whole step bend. That 10-blow half-step bend, again, no one uses it, just drop that off. So in this entire major pentatonic scale, this soloing scale for playing in major only has one bend, that 3-draw whole step bend. What can be helpful to help you with your 3-draw whole step bend, because that is a tough bend, is to do 3 blind mice. 3-draw B, 3-draw whole step bend A, that's the tough one, 2-draw G. 3 blind mice, 3-draw whole step bend, 2-draw. You try it. It's a good idea to practice it also ascending. Now just you. Alright, so our major pentatonic scale is our first soloing scale. It's not a structural scale like the major scale, for example, where we can build chords and such from. We take from the major scale, and through deletion, we get rid of the 4th and the 7th, and we actually have a scale that's easier to remember. There's only 5 notes, thus pentatonic scale, right? And it becomes much easier for us to play on the harmonica. It gets rid of some of the awkward bends on the instrument and really creates a very, very flowing scale that we can use on our instrument. Now, remember what I said in page 1 on the second to bottom paragraph. A good soloist combines the knowledge of scales, the chords they're playing over, and licks and movement from their soloing vocabulary. So in this case, we're using the major pentatonic scale. Why? It's an easy scale to remember. It lays very well on our instrument. And it does the job of when we have a very major song or a song in the blues that has a very light feel, that this is a good choice. It's a good match to use as our basis. The next step says the knowledge of the chords as well. So if I'm over a 1 chord, I need to know that it's the G, B, D basic triad. I'm going to get rid of the flat 7th because that's a bluesy sound, so that's a no-no note when we're playing with a real light feel. The knowledge of the 4 chords C, E, G, and the 5 chord D, F sharp A. You've already committed that to memory. And then, of course, putting in your lick vocabulary. Really what happens is you've got this third person voice that's looking down as you solo, and as you're going like 2-draw, and you're traveling down to the 1, 2-draw whole step bend, that soloist conscious mind needs to say, ooh, be careful, you usually go to 2-draw bent at the bottom, that's a bluesy note. Make sure you change the 2-blow, because 2-blow is what's in the major pentatonic scale. So number 1, you get very, very comfortable moving across the range of your instrument in that scale, and you have this vocabulary that you are rewriting as you're playing. That really is the improviser's mind. So the goal is to take the 2 intuitive sides and put them together. So the subconscious intuitive side are your lick vocabulary, and also you've played the scale so much that that's also intuitive. So this thought of playing light equals lick vocabulary conformed to the major pentatonic scale. Now, if we jump over to example 1.8, this is the way that I think and I feel will work best for you. I've outlined a couple different thought processes here. In 1.8, we have the scale, G, A, B, D, E, G, so it'd be like 2-draw, 3-draw whole step bend, 3-draw, 4-draw, 5-blow, 6-blow. Right? And then knowing that the 4 chord is C, E, G. Wait a minute, there's no C in there. But if I'm on the 4 chord, I would love to have my C because it is the root note of the 4 chord. So what we do is we just add that C. We already have E and G. That's the 6th and the root of the relative to the scale. Now I'm going to go ahead and add C. So when the 4 chord comes, I'm going to tip my hat to chord change and say, all right, that is the root note C. I'm not going to dogmatically stay in the major pentatonic scale and ignore the fact that there's a root note that I could add that'll sound great on that chord. So we will add C. Then for the 5 chord, we have D, F sharp, A. D is already found in our scale. A is already found in our scale, but F sharp is not. So by including F sharp when you play specifically over the 5 chord, again, now you're tipping your hat saying, I know my chord, that is a note that is very viable and will still keep that nice light feel. In the end, the C is the 4th scale degree of the major scale. F sharp is the 7th scale degree of the major scale. Those are the notes that we got rid of in the beginning. So here's our thought process. The major pentatonic scale, use that as your basis, but when the 4 chord comes, go ahead and reinsert that 4th scale degree, that C. On the 5 chord, reinsert that 7th scale degree. In this case, we're thinking of it as the 3rd of the 5 chord because that is a good note on the 5 chord to play. So that's the way that I find works best. Know your scale, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and know your chords, C, E, G, D, F sharp, A. So I'm not thinking about the 4th or the 7th, etc. I just know that C, E, G, those are the notes that sound good on the 4 chord. D, F sharp, A, those are the notes that sound good on the 5 chord. And that's where the best is. So we can just stay, or the best combination is, we can just stay in the soloing scale because you could use that over all the chords because there's enough notes in common, 2 out of the 3, right? But we might as well go to the next step and say, hey, I want the root note of the 4 chord. I want the major 3rd of the 5 chord. So we go to the next step on there and it says, approach number 2 exercise. Improvise to the jam track again using example 1.8 as your reference. The reason why I haven't played anything for you yet is 1.8 is the way that I think. So let me go ahead and play an example for you.